Welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Shively, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and I'm on a 1 million pound mission. Now, I've personally lost over 100 pounds, and I've applied what I've learned from my own transformation journey to help my hometown clients lose over 35,000 pounds in just 5 years. Now I'm on a mission to produce over 1 million pounds of results by delivering my best weekly tips, motivation, inspirational stories, and transformation strategies so that you can gain clarity about what you need to do to reach your goals and give you the confidence to take action. The perfect time to start taking action is right now. So let's do this. This episode is sponsored by my free 14-day Hello Abs starter course. Just head on over to my website, www.transformationcoach.me, and get signed up for free. I've got a 7-day done-for-you meal plan, 14 days of 10-minute body weight follow-along workouts, and plenty of daily motivation and inspiration to get you going. So head on over to the website, transformationcoach.me, and sign up for free. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude. How's it going out there? I'm psyched to bring you this episode. It's episode 87, the 4 C's formula with my main man, Chad Johnson. Chad is one of the most dynamic speakers I've ever heard, and I've heard some of the best. I can't wait for you to hear his message on the 4 C's formula. He uses his own life as an example of this process, and I don't want to ruin it for you because he has set an unbelievable goal for himself and his family, which includes himself, his wife, and their 11 children. I said 11, all right? I don't want to ruin the surprise because it is so cool what he's going to try to pull off this year. So I'll let you arrive to that nugget in the interview and just be blown away. But the 4 C's formula is something that I use, that Chad and I have both learned through a workshop that we go to at Strategic Coach. And I heard him teach this concept a few months ago, and I said, hey, you've got to come on my show because this directly applies to weight loss, to fitness, to body transformation, and just overall life in general. We're going to learn how to get committed, build courage through that commitment, attain new capabilities by being in that moment of courage, and then ultimately arrive at confidence, and that's where we can shine. So the 4 C's formula is going to blow you away. Without further ado, here is episode 87 with Chad Johnson. All right, Chad, welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing so good, Adam. So good to be with you.
Well, I'm psyched to have you here. Just to give a little bit of a ramp up to how we met each other. We've only known each other for a few months. We've both been in a program that I talk about a lot on the show, the Strategic Coach. We've been in the coach program for years. You're actually one of the mentors, one of the coaches. And I ended up in one of your workshops, and you delivered a talk called the 4 C's formula. And it just lit me up. And I was like, dude, you have to come and talk on my podcast because this applies to life. It applies to health and fitness. So before we get into that, maybe just introduce yourself a little bit to my audience and tell them how you came to be a coach and in the position that you're at right now.
You know what, Adam? Thank you. It was a delight, first of all, having you in that workshop. And I can't wait to talk about 4 C's because it's a part of everything I do in my life. But my life has been a really wonderful adventure, Adam. I think every one of us has a fun story if we look at it. And I'm an entrepreneur. I had a business that needed some really, really serious help. It was consuming me. It was taking all of my time, all of my life. It wasn't feeding me. And so I came to Strategic Coach as a client almost 13 years ago. And they started to teach me different ways of looking at my time and my unique abilities and my talents. And I really started to gain my life back. And so it was really fun 3 years ago when I was able to be able to join them as a coach. They helped me really scale my business. It was really, I say scale my life in an extraordinary way. And that, you know, I call myself the Giant 5 guy, Adam, in the sense that there are 5 priorities that are huge in my life that I align around. And one is my faith. Number 2 is my marriage to my wife, Janice. We're celebrating 24 years. We celebrated 24 years in August. We'll be 25 in August of 2018. And then we have 11 kids. So my third priority is our children. I have a ton of children, passionate about raising them, doing life and adventures with them. Fourth is my health, and that's why I got so excited about what you're doing, the work you're doing, Adam, in helping people transform their lives. We only have one body, and man, the ability to really change that is just such a huge deal. So I was super pumped to align with you and what you're doing. And then the fifth thing is something we do a lot at Coach, and it's around unique abilities. And I call them God-given gifts. This, who are you? What are you made to do? So, now more and more, it's like I get to run my businesses. I get to live an extraordinary life with my family. In fact, in 2018, we're embarking on a lifelong dream that I'll tell you about if you're curious. But it's just some really cool things that have come from, my work with Coach, and really specifically around this 4Cs model.
Wow. So let's pump our brakes a little bit, because you kind of glazed over the whole 11 kids thing there, Chad. Oh my gosh.
Check you out.
When I heard you talk about having a lot of kids at the workshop, we became Facebook friends and stuff. And then I saw a picture of them all lined up. I'm like, oh, this must be like a giant family barbecue or a family reunion. And it's like, no, it's all of Chad's kids. Holy cow. This is amazing. So that's a huge undertaking. Well done, sir. Well done. So we'll
Adam,
get to that for sure.
It's my wife that gets all the credit. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody that has a family knows that it takes two, and she does the heavy lifting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's dive into this 4Cs process, because it's a game changer. Like I said, when you taught this in our workshop, it just lit me up. My eyeballs went on fire, and I was like, my audience needs this. I remember I walked up to him like, you have to come on my podcast. And I gave you one of my shirts. I'm like, now that you've accepted this gift, you have to come on my podcast. It's written. And that's the contract.
Absolutely.
So I locked it in tight for the audience here, the $1 Million Mission peeps. So I'm just going to turn you loose, man. Let's talk about the 4Cs.
Okay. You know what? Again, this is a concept that Dan Sullivan, who is my coach, who's the founder of Strategic Coach, came up with. And he really, to me, encapsulated how people grow or how people transform. And he came up with this 4Cs model. It's such a simple framework, but it's such a powerful way of thinking about where we are in our life in any given area, right? People wanting to gain massive health in 2018 are going to need to go through a 4Cs process. If you want to start a business in 2018, you're going to go through a 4Cs process. If you're going to embark on an educational, program or degree program or college or a kid that's literally going through, joining a new sports team, they're going to go through a 4Cs model. And we've all been doing this our entire life. But what we haven't realized is that we haven't defined the process and the steps. And so often when we get in the middle of it and we feel yucky or we feel discouraged or we feel fearful or doubt or all those things that we as humans feel in that moment where it's not going right, we don't realize that often that is the most normal, right thing to be experiencing at that point in the process. And when we start to define these 4 processes, we can sit there and say, oh my gosh, it's not only am I supposed to be experiencing this, but it's also putting me on my way to the next C, which is going to be a progression, and it's going to take me to my ultimate goal, which is this place of ultimate confidence. And it's interesting, Adam, because I think your audience can relate. I know for me, I want to be confident. Adam, you like being confident?
Oh, yes. I love it.
Right? And you're a confident guy. And so people look at you and they sit there and go, okay, so Adam must always be confident. When he ever takes something on that's a new challenge, when he sets a new goal, when he starts his podcast, when he starts a business, when he wants to do anything, Adam starts at a place of confidence. And what's crazy is that true for you?
100% incorrect, sir.
Isn't that crazy? Guys, did you just hear what Adam said? He said he doesn't start with ultimate confidence. And here's what was so powerful to me, because so many people, Adam, I think, don't start on the journey. They don't start to take the big leap. They don't start because they don't feel confident. and we all want confidence. And so we delay, we procrastinate, we look for more research, we gather more data, we get ready, we buy the equipment. If we're going to lose weight, we start thinking about it, we start waiting until, this time or this place or this, and we don't do it because we're not confident. And what Dan Sullivan taught me through Coach was that confidence is actually a byproduct, that it's not a starting point, it's actually a byproduct of some other steps and those other C's. And he told me that the first step isn't confidence, it's actually commitment. And again, I think every one of us can identify a point in our life where we made a commitment. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, I want to do this. Oh, I'm kind of interested in that. Oh, I have a dream of doing this. No, a gut level, like your whole body, soul, and spirit is going, I am committed 100% to doing this thing, and I don't care what it is. And like I said, I just jumped off a cliff with my family this year in 2018, and we made a commitment. And I've done this so many times, and yet it's crazy because this commitment, every time you make a true commitment, you immediately, the moment you make it, it's accompanied by this almost overwhelming sense of excitement, but it's also this overwhelming sense of, can I do this? Right? I mean, have you experienced that, Adam, when you make a commitment that's real? Like there's no doubt in your mind you're going there. And all of a sudden there's this major rush, right? But there's also this accompanying fear, doubt, like how do I get there?
Yeah, 100%. Like when I decided to name my podcast The Million Pound Mission, that was a little scary. That kind of put it out there.
Absolutely, right? What if you only get 500,000, right? Or what if I can't pull this off? Yeah, because I know your story. You started with helping your town, and the people in your life lose 35,000 pounds, which is unbelievable, right? But to take it to 1 million, that's not a 10x, baby. That is huge, right? Yeah. That is a huge goal. And so, all of a sudden you're excited, you're all juiced, but half of you's going, what am I doing, right? And it's scary, and it actually puts you in this place of needing the second C, and that second C in the 4 C's is courage, right? It's courage. No great thing happens in your life, in my life, in any of our listeners today, that in their lives, not one thing happens in our life that is valuable, that is meaningful, that is transformative, that doesn't require courage. And it's crazy because if it requires courage, it means that it's scary. It means that we don't know the answers to every question. And so often, again, when we go back to that place of why do people not start? Well, they start because they don't know all the answers. They start because it's foggy out beyond the first step. It's unknown. And so it's scary. And that's why that second C, courage, is just so profound. Because when you realize all of a sudden that you're scared, or that you don't know, or you don't have a capability, or you don't have a skill set that's needed to take you to the next level, or you don't have the right resource or partnership or alliance, it's okay. Realize that it's okay. And that in that place, be courageous and work through it. Take one step at a time, progress, not perfection, moving the ball along. And in that period of time is where growth really happens. After that second C is where the growth in our life, the transformation, the weight loss, the health gain, the business building skills, the financial gain, the relationship gain, all of that is where it starts to really happen. And that's where the dirty work, the groundwork, the getting in the gym, the sweating, that's where it's required. It's where the alarm clock goes off at 5. You've already made the commitment, and now the courage is, hey, you know what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it again, even though I feel like I've plateaued, or even though I feel like I'm not progressing as fast as I wanted to, or I didn't hit the mark I wanted to last week. But it requires that courage of just going and doing and stepping forward. So so we see again, we have this first C of commitment, and commitment that says I've cut off all other options. I'm stepping out. I'm going for it. This is my day. This is my year. This is my time. I'm going. Courage shows up immediately, week one, day one. You know, I'm going to give you an example of this in my own life. I have been really thinking, praying, strategizing, trying to figure out how to get my wife on board and 10 of our 11 children to travel the world as a family. And it's a big undertaking. It's scary. We're not international travelers. We've done a little bit to Canada, a little bit to Mexico. I've done some business travel to Europe, but we've never taken the whole gang, you know, put them on flights, gone to some place that we don't know, with languages we don't know, cultures we don't know, and the cost, and how do you manage all this and all the moving parts and keep your businesses going, keep an education going for these kids. I mean, it's just a big deal. And yet I've been wanting it so bad, and I know that it's the right thing for me at the season of life. And so I had this conversation with my wife, and literally 4 days before the end of this year, you know, right in December, we said, we're going to do this. We made a commitment. In fact, you're the first person that's kind of hearing this outside of my family, Adam.
Yes, it's an honor.
You know, it's really, I haven't shared it with anybody because I really want to make sure that our wills are all up and going and we present it the right way. And I'm actually got to make some communication with some business partners and things that are happening. I finished the last one actually earlier this morning, which is awesome. So I'm ready to launch this thing, but it was a commitment that is huge for me. And yet immediately the second we said, okay, we're in, I looked at my wife, we're looking in the eyes, we shook hands, we're like, okay, we're doing this. It was like immediately the excitement was just coursing through my veins. I was adrenaline, I was pumped, I was psyched, and it was crazy because I was having all these creative ideas. It was awesome. I was that moment of inspiration. 2 days later, I'll be real frank with you, is when all of a sudden I hit the second C, and courage was required. All of a sudden I'm just going, man, this is a big deal. We're literally, Adam, going to sell everything we own. We're literally selling our house. We're selling our cars. We're just going to unplug because I don't want any attachments. I want this total freedom. But it's like all of a sudden, I mean, I'm literally calling my real estate broker and saying, hey, put the house up for sale. I'm calling people, hey, make listings. We're going to put Craigslist. Got my assistant finding, all these different resources of how to sell things and move things and how to book flights. And all of a sudden it got scary. I mean, I'm going, dadgum, can I pull this off? Can we keep our life on the rails, our family on the rails, my business is on the rails, and pull this off? And the logistics of it and the reality of it started hitting me. And so literally the last 4 days, I'm going between spikes of just totally ecstatic, ecstasy, joy. Oh my word, this is going to be the most epic thing ever. And then the other part of me is kind of freaking out because it's going, okay, got to do this, got to do that, got to make sure this happens. Can we do this? Can we pull it off in time? Because we already have scheduled flights, and we're already, so we got deadlines. It's crazy, but I'm in a courage space. But here's what's crazy, Adam, and you know this because you've done this so many times. In your audience, they've done this over and over again. They've already been there. And it's just a matter of where are you on this 4 C's process? Are you in a place where you finish something that's an awesome goal and you're confident, you're excited about your past, but there's a next step that you need to grow in? Maybe you've lost 10 pounds, but there's another 10 or 20 you're going to lose that you haven't ever been able to put off, right? And all of a sudden you're like, do I want to commit all out to that next step of my gain? And if so, and the fear around that may be, I've tried before, right? Adam, how many people have embarked on a journey of making a commitment and then got to the courage part and then quit, right?
Yep.
Because all of a sudden that's where all the obstacles hit and they think, oh man, it's just not meant to be, right? There's obstacles. There's things that are coming against me. And I think in your great line of work of bringing people massive transformation, that's where our audience, that's where they stop because they're in that courage place. And they don't realize that it's so normal. It's so expected. It's always going to be hard. It's always going to be foggy. It's always going to be scary. But that through that, we're going to get the capabilities. We're going to get the mindsets. We're going to get the skill sets. We're going to get new habits. We're going to get new ways of eating and drinking and sleeping and thinking and acting that are skill sets that we'll take with us the rest of our lives. So this isn't just valuable for this one learning, this one trip around the 4 C's. This is valuable for the rest of your life. And so, Adam, you're probably wondering, Chad, come on, get to that 3rd C, right? What is the 3rd C? Okay? And the 3rd C, Adam, we've committed to something. We've gone through the period of fear, and we've gone through this period of increasing our skill sets, mindsets, whatever. And the third C is actually capability. Okay, all of a sudden we start to wake up to the fact that we are becoming capable. And there's nothing that gives us just more wind in your sails than to realize I have a capability today that I didn't have yesterday. I have a way of thinking today that wasn't yesterday. I have a new habit today. I am a different person today because of these capabilities that I have achieved by going through the hard thing, by going through the valley. And so by going through that period of courage and really stepping through long enough, persisting in it till I get to that capability phase. And when all of a sudden I get to that capability phase, all of a sudden I start to get traction. And we've all been at that place. When we've taken the commitment, when we have gone through the difficulty period, like I'm right now saying I committed in December to this, 2018 World Tour, and we're calling our trip the Giant Five Family because it's around sharing a message around those 5 things that I'm most passionate about. And our family's going to be the Giant Five Family, and we'll have some ways of people following us. But it's making that commitment, going into the courage mode. I see right now until the moment I get on that plane as my biggest courage period, right? I've just got so much, and I'm gaining capabilities. I'm learning every day. I'm having conversations. I got off the phone with a guy last night who's in South Africa. I got off 2 hours later, I got off the phone with a guy who lived there for 7 years, and I'm just picking their brains and learning everything about, again, safety and vaccinations and, places to avoid, places you must see, places all the ins and outs of travel and efficiency and it's just like lodging, and it's crazy. But I'm gaining all this capability, and so I'm going to be, I guarantee you, a month from now, I'm going to be so much more capable that every other country we travel to in the year is going to be far easier. It's going to be I'm going to have a new level of capability and confidence that I know where to go. I go to this website, I check out this, I talk to these people, I get this kind of information, we build this kind of plan, and we execute it in this way because I will have a track to run on. But right now, I'm writing a blueprint. So I'm building that capability. And then here's what's beautiful. Adam, after I've gone through commitment, after I've gone through the courage place, after I've gone through this period of building capabilities and realizing capabilities, it's then that all of a sudden you take this deep breath, your shoulders come back, your chin comes up, you look at your life, and your confidence is off the charts, right? You're at this place of like, I made it. And this scenario plays out, Adam. You lost 100 pounds, my friend, and kept it off.
Yep.
You climbed. That's like climbing, one of the tallest mountains in the world. Pick your Kilimanjaro or Everest. It's literally, and everybody has their mountain to climb. And when you stood at the base of that 100-pound mountain and said, I want this. There's a point where you made that commitment, and then you went through this courage. And I can't tell you, I mean, you could probably not tell me how many times you wanted to quit on your journey because it got hard, because it got cloudy, because you hit discouragement or little plateaus or a little setback or got sidetracked or hurt, whatever it is. I mean, in that courage mode, were there times?
Oh, 100%. Almost every day as you get started.
Yeah, see, you hear that? That courage is required every day. And so what I want our audience to know, Adam, more than anything, is many people are right now at that place of courage. They're literally at a place of courage required. And here's one of the most beautiful things that Dan Sullivan, again, has taught me around courage, is that a life without courage is not worth living.
Yes.
We grow only when we're put in a place of having a life that requires courage. And if any of our audience thinks back to when their greatest moments of growth in their life, their greatest, richest, most fulfilling experiences in life, there was a courage required at some point in that process. And the second we try to remove that courage element from our life and say, hey, I don't want to risk anymore. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to be scared anymore. I don't want to go into unknown areas. The second we do that, we have said, I'm off to the sideline. I'm up on jacks. I don't want to grow. and we've just basically took ourselves out of the game of life. And if we want to get in the game of life, all it takes is an awareness of where I am in the 4 C's and saying, guess what? I'm going to make a new commitment.
Yes.
You know, and I just, this 4 C's thing, Adam, like you said, it has been transformational for me in my businesses, in my coaching, in my parenting, helping my children understand this 4 C's process, helping my kids, taking them to the 4 C's and say, hey, Barrington, the reason you're feeling this way right now is because you're right here. And guess what? That's a great spot to be, because you're growing and you're going to get to this place where you're capable. And then you're going to be confident. And I tell you what, having a framework with anybody that's in our life to be able to understand where we are in the 4 C's, where they are in any moment in the 4 C's. And here's what's crazy. People could be in one space in that 4 C's model with their health, and be at a total different place in their marriage or their key relationships, or in their career, in their work life. They can be at a different spot in each one of those, right? And so it's not like this just applies to one area and, oh, I'm in this courage phase of life. No, sometimes things are really, we've gotten the capabilities and we're maintaining and managing and growing them. And then other things really need a lot of attention because we're in that courage mode. But anyways, Adam, that is the 4 C's as I understand it and as I live it and as it's impacted you, I believe. You know, it's just, again, it's profound. And I think for your audience, my gosh, it's got to be a powerful mindset framework for them.
Yes. And as you guys have just been an audience to here, when you bring Chad on the line, you just let him go, right? Like there's I knew I didn't want to butt in there and ask any questions, although I'm like, ooh, that, you know, I've got some questions for you to follow up on these concepts. But it was the same thing as when I heard you speak in person. Chad, you're one of the most dynamic speakers I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of really good speakers. So, you know, the message you just delivered and the way you delivered it, and I feel lucky that our audience got to hear that. All right. So I think one of the key points that you said was that I think it could be very easy for anybody to say, just take the big compartment and say, oh, my life is in courage right now, or I'm in commitment as my life in general. So I'm glad you pointed that out, that you have to use this as almost a filter for those various areas of our life and not necessarily just paint it with a broad brush, because this is a valuable tool, but it's got to be used correctly and in the right circumstances. So, so if you could maybe talk a little bit more about, I want to get into the family thing in a second, but talk a little bit more about the Big Five and how people could apply the 4 C's maybe to your Big Five concepts in life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. Adam, again, what you tied on, or asked about, commented on around the 4 C's in all the areas of our life. I think it's super important that we do not put ourselves in a place where we have to be maximizing courage in multiple areas of our life at the same time. I think people tend to do that with New Year's resolutions. Yep. They tend to kind of go, hey, you know what, I'm going to make all these new commitments. And in so doing, they dilute their courage, because we only have so much courage. We cannot be courageous in my career and in my family and in my relationship and in my, in venture travel and in my health, and we can't. And in financial goals, no, we need to isolate. Hey, you know what? These things are managing well. I'm in a place of confidence and capability and maybe managing. But what is the area I want to really grow forward in? And I will have the energy to focus and get the transformation. So that would just be one thing around that. Around the five, my giant five, it's funny because I chose those 5 things because I really went through a scenario in my own experience where I read a book in my teens that challenged me with the concept of, hey, take a look at your funeral and put yourself at the end of your life, and you're sitting there observing, kind of overseeing your funeral service, and people one at a time, your friends, your family, the ones you love, your closest people that you've impacted, your clients, your customers, people in your community, your church, they're coming to this memorial service, and one at a time they're going up and they're sharing what your life was about. What was it that you stood for? What was it that you left as your legacy? And it's interesting because that's where I came up with what I call my giant 5 priorities. And my number one being my faith. It's so foundational to everything else in my life. And I know a lot of people have faith as a priority. And I don't care what people choose as their priority. We have been given total freedom to choose. What's your number one priority in life? Meaning, if everything starts to go sideways, where do I go? Where's my anchor? And what is at the end of my life going to be most important? And that faith component, my relationship with God, I'm a Christian, my faith in Jesus Christ, these things give me life. It's weird because I want to grow spiritually. I set goals spiritually that I want to grow in my faith and my relationship with the Lord and my understanding of Scripture, all these things. And so that requires new levels of commitment. And the 4 C's applies to it, because when I step out to be more engaged, I mean, this year, one of my goals is I want to memorize two verses out of Scripture a week. Well, all of a sudden, that again, it's a new commitment. It requires this courage. Can I do that on top of everything else I'm doing? Does it fit in my life where I can maintain it? But it's weird because already, I mean, I was working on that this morning, and it's fun because I'm building this capability, and it's making me more confident in my faith. So every one of those 5 areas for me, my marriage, I know people want to grow in their marriage. Often we neglect our marriages just because life gets busy, and it's sad because so many marriages fall apart, not because of intent, but because of neglect. And often the only thing we need to do is take our marriage, hold it up to the 4 C's, and say, where am I in my marriage? Am I coasting in my marriage? Have I decided I want a marriage without courage? Meaning I'm not going to have the hard conversations. I'm not going to be transparent. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to tell my wife, my husband, or my spouse what I really want or what I'm really thinking. Because it's hard, it's difficult, it's scary. The 4 C's, am I not going to go to a marriage conference because they made me put me in an uncomfortable position of having to talk about things that I've just kind of been avoiding and running from? So every one of these areas of our life, the 4 C's model applies to. It just does, because growth is I'm convinced we're either growing or we're dying, right, Adam? I mean, right. It's like there's no coast, and to me that coasting period is choosing to live without courage. So, anyways, I am constantly trying to encourage others and myself to take those 4 C's, hold them up to an area of my life, and say, okay, where am I in this right now? Am I growing? And it's so easy to put yourself back into a growth mode in all areas of life by applying the 4 C's, because, I'm going to make a commitment. If my marriage is stagnant, making a commitment to, hey, you know what, I'm going to sit down right now and I'm going to book a 2-day getaway to a marriage workshop or whatever and work on it. Boom. You all of a sudden took a commitment. The courage will happen 6 months out once you're there and you're sitting there going, why am I here? Oh, my gosh, I'm having to have these conversations and it's whatever. And then you're going to come out the other side going, God, I'm so glad I did. And your marriage grows and you're more confident. Health, parenting, discovering your unique abilities. To discover your unique abilities, you've got to apply the 4 C's. You're going to do it by trying new things. Trying new things means you're uncomfortable. You don't become good at something. I want to learn to dance. I'll tell you what. To learn to dance well, I know for a fact I've taken just enough dance lessons to know that I feel like a fish out of water when I trying to learn a new dance, right? Yeah. I mean, you want to feel like a goon, like step this way. I have no muscle memory, no skills, and it applies. 4 C's applies. Okay, go through that period. So, yeah, I don't think there's an area of life where we can't take that 4 C's model and apply it, especially the areas that are your critical priorities.
All right, so here's a funny aside story that I've never shared on the podcast, and I know you've never heard, but you mentioned dancing, so let's just bust the 4 C's out on this. A few years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, I got invited. This is like when I had lost my weight and I was kind of getting some notoriety around my hometown. I got invited to do our local, what we kind of do a local Dancing with the Celebrities. All right, we have this big theater. Yeah, we have this big theater in town. And 600 people show up and watch you do 3 dances, and you're judged on it, and there are winners and there are losers.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So I'm at first I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I committed. I'm like, this sounds cool. I need you to raise money for a charity. So I picked the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it for them. And that was part of the courage that I had to come up with. I had to kind of find a little bit of a why, and then I had to get the capability of learning how the heck to do the salsa dance, the waltz, the foxtrot, and how to not step on the toes of my
dance instructor, and I was really terrible. Like I was terrible, but I put in the time. I committed to it. I put in the time. I learned those new capabilities. I learned how to dance. I couldn't just learn how to dance.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to dance with like,
Wow.
what's the best way for me to actually absorb this information. And then I started gaining confidence, and I started getting kind of sassy with my dance moves. I started being more of a showman, and we went out there and we won. And I won the competition.
Way.
Yeah, I'll post.
Oh my gosh!
I'll post the YouTube video and I'll connect it to this show. And
I'll check it out.
There's footage, and if you YouTube my full name, Adam Shively, and put "sexy dance" behind it, you will see the video. That's gonna blow up. And we also raised $30,000 for our local Boys and Girls Club just through my dancing efforts. So that's the 4 C's. That's the 4 C's.
It's exactly it.
So I know we're coming short on time. I've got 2 more questions for you, Chad, if you are willing and able. I've got
absolutely.
Yeah. First thing, I want to make sure people know how to connect with you and how to follow this epic adventure that you're going to be on. How can people plug into that and just keep following your story?
You know what? Thanks for asking. It's we're going to be on YouTube, and we're also going to have a website. This is all being built as we speak. So it's actually I own the domain, so it's not even active, but this will be active probably in about 2 weeks. And we are the Giant5Family.com. So the Giant5 Family, and it's a number 5. So super easy to find, and we're going to be on Instagram as the Giant5 Family, and also Facebook, the Giant5 Family. It's the is important in that. And yeah, join us on the journey. You can follow me. I just am starting to get somewhat social media savvy and some of these other things. So I'm doing some Facebook stuff on Facebook around the Giant5. I actually do a daily little blurb on one of those 5 things Monday through Friday, and I'm actually going to build out my domain name this year and my platform around the Giant5 Guy. So again, the number 5 and GUY at the end. Anyways, thanks for asking.
Yeah, and I will link every bit of that in the show notes, and it should time up well. I'm about 3 weeks ahead of schedule on our release date, so this should time up perfectly for you guys to be one of the first people to check out all the Giant5 info. And I'm psyched. Chad, I'm just so psyched about this. I'm proud of you as a friend and as somebody that I've connected with recently, that you're just taking on an adventure like this. It's going to be an unbelievable story, and I can't wait to follow it. So it's going to be epic, man. Now, the last thing I want to toss out there at you is that I know a lot of my listeners and my audience, they kind of get in those funks. We all do. We get in those ruts. But I know, I talk to a lot of people about their danger zones with their transformation, and sometimes they tend to bring up the kid issue, and they're like, it doesn't matter how many kids they have. They just say, well, I kind of lost it all because I have to focus on my kids, or I don't have time to work out because I've got kids. And, I feel I talk about, your kids need to be a part of your why, not a part of the why not. And that's important. So since you've got 11 kids and you're a fit dude and you're healthy, so, maybe you could shine a little bit of light on this.
You know what? Super important question, because I so relate with people who have too much going on in their life, right? We live in an age where there's just so much coming at us, so much busyness. And again, I think, Adam, it comes back to, what do you want? What's your why? I love that you said that. Because again, if I ever get stuck, or if I'm ever at a place of in the courage zone and I'm kind of wondering what it is, I have to revisit that why. The why's got to be so powerful, and that's vital. But with the kids, here's what I found. I am a huge fan of building, and that's part of that Giant5 model mindset that I have, is that anytime I can do anything with one of my children that is beneficial to us both, it's an absolute win. So one of the things I do, and this may sound crazy and it may be practical for some, may be impractical for others, but I literally have challenged our family, because fitness and health is number 4 of our Giant5, and it's a family mission. Every one of my family makes this a part of their lifestyle. All the 10 kids are fit and healthy and active. And I think, first of all, it's establishing that as a family priority and literally seeing it as, hey, not only is we as parents want to be fit and healthy and active, we're going to encourage that mindset and that lifestyle through the things we do, through the things we don't do as a family. And so some practical things, we literally chose some goals that our children were in line with. Some of our kids, this is quite a few years back, that kind of started this journey, is we wanted a big, hairy, audacious goal for them. And so we chose to pick a running goal at that time, and we chose to run a half marathon together. And it was my wife, myself, our 4 oldest children at that time. The youngest at that time was Baylor, and he was 10 years old. So for him to run a half marathon at 10, and it was his goal. He wanted to do it. We sat down as a family and said, hey, what's a goal that we want to do? And then we literally would train. We'd get up. We'd run in the mornings together. We'd get up before school, before we started our day. Hey, let's go for our training run. We'd read books together. We brought it into our family as a cultural family thing where we're doing these things together. Now, that isn't always practical with people's lives, but I'll tell you what, if you can do that, it has been transformational because we've done all sorts of epic family physical challenges, adventures, adventure races. There's one here in Bend. I did it last year. I did it with my daughter. She's 16 years old, and it was called Pole Paddle Paddle. And, it's literally, you look it up in Bend, Oregon, the Pole Paddle Paddle. It's an epic, downhill ski race, cross-country ski, road bike, run, and then a kayak, and then a sprint to the finish. It's about a 2-hour event. Epic way to engage. And it was one of her goals. So I said, let's do this together. So I think if you can find alignment with your kids, rather than always seeing it as something you've got to go do by yourself, I got to go to my gym, that can work too. Fit it in, get to the gym. But if you can incorporate lifestyle things in that you're doing with your children and bringing them along with you so that they've picked a target. We often do 5Ks, and my kids love to beat their own time. They love to try to, develop. And not all of them are excited about it first. I kind of challenge them, hey, I want you to try one and see what you think. It's part of discovering their talents, their unique abilities. And if it's not their thing, okay, we'll find something else that we can, do that's around your goal. But I think having a mindset that this is a part of our family culture, it's a lifestyle, it's important for all of us. If we can align doing those things together, it's just a huge win. Getting on a bicycle, if you're going to do some cardio and getting your kids to do it. We actually do family. We'll get those, mentioned like people like Sean T or these different people that do videos, P90X or whatever. We'll literally throw it up in our garage, in our barn, RV barn, and we'll do that workout all together, as a family. I mean, my 5-year-old Cordy's trying to, go through she's always like 3 seconds behind and, doing all the exercise awesome. A little funny, but it's body weight stuff. The kids are into it. In fact, it's funny. One of the things we're going to be doing on my Giant 5 guys, or the Giant 5 families, we're going to be doing some of our family workout stuff.
I can't wait.
Because we want to encourage families in that as well.
That's amazing. Gosh, that is amazing. It's going to be so exciting to watch all this. And I love that you're doing it as a family. You're going on this huge transformational journey as a family. So I've come up with one bonus question for you, and I think you're going to like it. Can you name all the kids quickly from oldest to youngest as fast as possible? Go, Chad Johnson.
Oh, no, I can't do that. Okay. Catherine, Kyla, Kelsey, Baylor, Caroline, Kimberly, Chloe, Barrington, Kinsey, Bentley, Cordy.
Oh, my gosh. Chad Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. This guy is a phenom. Chad, I appreciate you, man. This has been a great conversation. I've been looking forward to this since the day that I pulled your arm and convinced you to do this. And I just appreciate your time. I know you are super busy. You've got this huge adventure ahead of you, so I appreciate you taking some time to share your story and your insight and your wisdom with myself and my audience. And thank you for supporting the Million Pound Mission, man. It's a huge, huge deal to us.
Yeah, Adam, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love the work you're doing. You're a gift to your audience. You're so passionate. You're so committed. You're such an inspiration to me, and I'm grateful for your friendship and can't wait to see where you go in the future. It's going to be big.
All right, there you have it, my friends. This is the challenge. As always, in the next 24 hours, I want you to do a 4Cs analysis of one area of your life that Chad mentioned. And I want you to see how things have played out. Maybe even sit back and think about one area that you've had some success with, where you reach that confidence level and work it backwards and then work it back forward and just get comfortable with that thought process. And then I want you to take action with one area that you need to make a commitment with in the next 24 hours so you can get out there. And as always, we're going to own it. Every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. All right, I've got one quick question before you take off. Have you taken on my Subscribe for 5 challenge yet? If not, here's how it works. If I've been able to add any value to you with this episode or inspire you with the content, I want you to hit the subscribe button and give me 5 episodes. Listen to 5 episodes, and if you aren't inspired, then I get fired. All right, so you can unsubscribe, no harm, no foul, no hurt feelings by me. But I think that you're going to love the content. You're going to love the 3 shows per week that we're putting out there. So subscribe for 5, get inspired, get fired up, and get better results.